Welcome to La Vida Football. My name is Luis Laureano. I'm a UEFA B licensed coach. Today's video is a futsal video. We're going to be working on playing out the back against a high press. The opponents will be defending with one player, and then we will change the variation and build out the back when there are two players. And then we will take a look if there are two players plus one more ready to add the pressure. So this last one is very unlikely, but still possible. Okay, so let's begin. If we take a look here, there is one player that is putting on most of the pressure, and we are lined up in a 2-2 formation. So the two players in the back, here we have the fixo, and the alas are now placed diagonally on our half, and then the pivot is on the opposite side to the fixo. Okay, so in this case, the bottom right, and the fixo is on the top left. Okay, so now the first thing that's important is positioning. So if we take a look here, the fixo right now is not optimizing the space, because there is this much space available. So now in order for us to take advantage of having only one defender, the fixo will have to come a little bit back. Or if we play on the other side, it would be the ala that would have to essentially make that space. Okay, so let's make sure that our positioning is correct and that we are optimizing the space so that we can take advantage of the 2 versus 1 numerical advantage. Okay, by spreading out the players, now the first pass should be quite easy to make. And by first pass, I mean from goalkeeper to ala or goalkeeper to fixo. Okay, so now when the pass is made, two things need to happen. Number one is the alas need to move into a position. That's the first thing. The second thing is that our fixo, whenever they get the ball, they have to essentially make a touch already into the pass that is more available. And in this case, it would be dependent on which route the pivot takes and essentially where they're forcing us to play. Okay, so if they're closing off the pass back and forcing us to go out, then that means that their strategy is to get us to play out. Okay, so that's okay. Yeah, we just have to make sure that we are very close to the sideline so that we have space to receive the ball should we get it. Okay, so then if the pressure is closing off the pass back to the fixo that is here on top, then I'm sorry, the ala on this side here on top, then the other ala would be there to essentially receive that next pass. And should they get the pass, then in futsal everything goes by quite fast. So once that player receives the ball, usually the defenders are in position to essentially stop us. But if not, then the most optimal thing to do is to go up the pitch and see if we can take advantage of a quick 2 versus 1 advantage with the opponent's fixo. Okay, so that would be optimal. It's usually not that easy, and against high quality opponents that is very unlikely. But again, if the pivot covers the pass back and the ala falls asleep, then we could be in a quick 2 versus 1 situation before the other ala comes back to help. But even then, it would be a 2 versus 2 situation, which is also quite good for us if we can take advantage of it and attack quickly and efficiently. Now let's open up the players in the back again, reset the ball back to the goalkeeper, reset the opponents. Another way for us to build, and I'm gonna play back to the fixo here, is if we dribble up and force the opponents to put pressure on us. Okay, so what that does is, let's say for example the fixo holds the ball and moves up a little bit. As this is happening, then of course this will require everybody to move. Our player should already be in process of moving around, but if our fixo moves up the pitch diagonally so that we still have two options, then this would require their players to adapt to this. So then if they move, then we can set up a play so that this player here, the ala on the top here, gets the ball. So how do we do that? Well, here's what we can do. Number one is our people can check in, and this will essentially smash the diamond a little bit. And what that does is this will force these two players to tuck in. Of course, ball being so close to this ala, this player would essentially move over a little bit, but the pivot now will be made aware that our pivot is putting pressure and will essentially close that pass into the center. This player here, the ala, would then put a little bit more pressure to the pivot. This would then open the space on the opposite side so that this ala here can get the ball and have have a little bit of time to essentially move the ball forward and take advantage of this space there. Okay, so then that little space would essentially give us some time to move up the pitch a little bit. So then if we go up, then of course things change. Then the pressure now is on that side. Our pivot then would open up as one option, or our pivot would be essentially just maneuvering their body a little bit so that they can do a quick wall pass here, for example, and then forcing this player to move a little bit, and when that movement comes, taking further advantage of that space there. Okay, so then that would be a possibility, and that would be possible because we would force the players or the opponents to the left side, play the ball to the right side here where our ala is, and if there is only one player here, then we have that 2 versus 1 advantage. Of course, all of this is momentarily because the game of futsal moves so fast and so quickly that this 2 versus 1 will be available, but it would only be available for a short amount of time. Okay, so it's important that their players are in sync and are aware of the space and are aware of the positioning, because this is a 2 versus 1 that should be taken advantage of right there. Okay, so again, that is another solution. Now we're going to reset, and we are going to look at how this would be, or how we would play out the back during a high press with 2 players putting on the pressure. Okay, so let's move the players around a little bit. So now the same thing would have to happen initially, is we would have to open up the space, and if the opponents are using 2 players to press, then this is of course going to be more difficult to play out the back, because we essentially have a man versus man here, a man versus man there, and essentially our players here are available but with coverage there in case they should receive the ball. Okay, so here defending in the 2-2 is a good balance, especially for new teams, but it exposes the wings and this leaves it vulnerable to numerical disadvantages, and that's what we're going to take advantage of. And the initial thing, like in the initial variation of one defender, our positioning is important, and that is getting wide and using the space, optimizing the space that we have, because now we actually have 2 players essentially moving side to side and, you know, forcing us to, number 1, play faster, and number 2, playing man to man. And again, it's man to man because a pass to the goalkeeper is no longer available, at least not directly. The opponent would have to get the ball and take it away, and we would have to recover the ball, and then we would be able to pass the ball back to the goalkeeper. Okay, so that is not an option. Now with 2 players on top, there's a lot more pressure because the man-to-man defending is more possible, meaning this player would go to the player that has the ball. The player here on the opposite side would be looking at what this player does, where they move, how they move, so that they can take advantage of the next pass should it go to them. Okay, and this would be a dangerous pass to do just because it's across the goal itself. So if we get the ball and we try to pass it there, and then this player intercepts, then they're right in front of the goal, and that is very dangerous to do. So what do we do here? Because we have this man-to-man, we have to force one of these players to get out of position, either this player here or this player there. So how do we do that? We would have to come in or go into the center, but regardless of what we do, this player will be very important. Okay, so for example, if we go in there, then our ala here would have to go up, force their player to step back, and forcing this player to make a decision. Okay, so are they going to cover the middle? Are they going to stay back and allow this player to get a ball there and then try to do a 2 versus 1 there? Or is that player not going to allow that, force this player here, the people, to receive the ball under pressure? Because the possibility of getting the ball to our people is it's actually quite possible, because we are the ones moving first. We are moving towards the ball, and then the defenders are essentially adapting to the movement. So if we have a people that can really control the ball, then we would essentially be okay with that pressure there. The next thing is what's very important. Okay, so then that is a trigger. As soon as the ball is to our people, and our people is someone that is good at holding the ball, then this player is essentially acting as a decoy to come in, forcing this player to also move a little bit, but then we have the space on the opposite side, and then that's the space that we want to take advantage of. Okay, so that is the space that we want to consider for the pass, but it all depends on how much space we have to make that pass. Okay, so if this player forces us to go out, then of course that pass might be a little bit more difficult, but the pass is still there. The option is still there. It's just a matter of getting to that option. Okay, so if the people has good control, then with body movement or feints, we can force this player to move a little bit, allowing enough time to move the ball enough to get enough space to be able to make that pass through, having our fixo in this case run up the pitch, getting the ball, and then attack. Okay, so that is a very difficult pass and play to make, but if you have the players that can do it, then it's possible, right? Okay, another thing would be getting getting the ball, and then essentially the people playing it back to the ala and then moving. So then after the pass, moving there, forcing this player to put pressure there again. This player would follow our people there. Our people would essentially go to the other side and then turn around. And then this would essentially create one of two things. So if we're in this situation, our people is there in the middle, having these two players in check. This player here, our fixo now, could either get the ball there. So that is a possibility. Another thing would be that we have enough space to make the pass here to the ala that essentially switch sides and holding the ball so that we can progress as a team. Okay. And the reason I say progress is because getting the ball there and then turning around and going one-on-one with their fixo is possible, but it would be very difficult to do. And because our players are so far back, it would not be realistic to say that we're going to get the ball there and then go on a 2-versus-1. Of course, it is possible, like I just mentioned, to go one-on-one also with the fixo. But again, a futsal game goes by so quickly that all these things are only possible if everybody is in sync with one another. These things are possible. It is possible to go one-on-one. It is possible to move so quickly that we go a 2-on-1 if our people is quick to react. But if not, then we just hold the ball and wait for everybody to come back. And then we reset, not reset, but we regroup and then essentially try to get back into formation where our fixo is back in the back. Our ala that was in the far corner runs across so that we can go back to a 1-2-1 formation. And then of course the opponents would regroup as well. Okay, so then we try to get the ball across and then from there we essentially attack. Okay, so that is when we have again two defenders employing that high press, adding a little bit more pressure, adding more of a man-to-man coverage, and requiring us to move a lot more and to be a lot more precise with our passing. Okay, so that is when we have two. Now let's take a look at the third variation with two players pressing and with one player there to add essentially a third player press. Okay, so in the last variation we have kind of like a three-man high press, and this will be very unlikely. This would only be employed during play. So for example, let's say the white team here has the ball and for whatever reason it's lost, we've recovered it, then here we can have our players pass the ball back to the goalkeepers. So then here we can add pressure at a man-to-man basis, three players putting pressure on our goalkeeper and our two players in the back. This would force a forced pass from our goalkeeper, but key thing to consider here are the two players that we have on top. Okay, so one of the alas and our people. So this is important because they only have one player back. Of course, they have the goalkeeper as well, but only the fixo is covering the defensive part before getting to the goalkeeper. Okay, so this is actually why this defensive press will not be employed by teams, at least during a build-up, would be because if they have three players there, then we're essentially doing a 2-versus-1, right? So then this would just be quite easy to get up the pitch, at least on our part. This is the type of defending that you will see towards the end of a match when teams are a little bit more desperate to get the ball. But again, this will not be employed during a build-up from the goalkeeper, just because for the opponents it just automatically eliminates a defender, right? At least in the back. And because there is no offsides, there is no limit as to how high our players can be, and then our goalkeeper can essentially just get the ball to one of the players on top and we are on the attack. Okay, so if a team defends like this, it would most likely be in play when the goalkeeper is allowed to touch the ball, and it would just be so that one player can put pressure on the goalkeeper and then running a man-to-man on the fixo and one of our alas, and then this would be quite difficult for the goalkeeper to get the ball to the top. Okay, what would be likely is for pass to one of the sides and then immediately out. But when that happens, then their players should have enough time to slow the game down to get everybody back in position. Okay, so yeah, the solution there is to try to get the ball up, of course, as quick as possible. And if it's during the build-up and they automatically put three players up, then your goalkeeper should just know that that's something to take advantage of, right? Because there is no offsides, and these players too should be aware of that situation. Okay, but that's it. That's how you build up in a high press against one player putting the pressure and against two players putting the pressure. And again, there is a possibility for the opponents to put three players on top, but when that happens, we just need to get the ball up as soon as possible and take advantage of the 2-versus-1 advantage that we have on the attack. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, comment that in the comment section below. I appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.